Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show reviews. And today we're reviewing episode 8 of Beavis and Butt-Head, and it's entitled Two Stupid Men / Freaky Friday. So, was it good? Was it bad? And should you be watching? Episode 8 continues the idiotic adventures of Beavis and Butt-Head. And we get another treat, I guess you could call it, of old Beavis and Butt-Head, in which old Beavis and Butt-Head are on jury duty. Well, you have to ask yourself, like, this is already a good setup. Who in the hell called them to jury duty? And why did a prosecutor and or defense attorney allow them to get onto the jury? That's not explained, doesn't need to be explained. But in the Two Stupid Men, it's of course a take on 12 Angry Men. We find Beavis and Butt-Head, the lone holdouts, in a criminal trial for someone that tried to rob a store and attempted manslaughter, etc., etc. And they're holding out because, obviously not because, for good reasons, because they just think the guy's cool and he shouldn't be guilty. And so it's essentially, that's the joke. That's the joke. They're dumb and they think that he's cool because he did all these criminal stuff. And the other people are mad at them. And it turns into like this, how dare you hang the jury sort of thing. And it's all quite funny, actually. I have to say, this is a very funny bit. It didn't get old. It wasn't a joke that was so thin that it got old quickly. Simply that, Beavis and Butt-Head are obviously they're thinking about this in all the wrong way, and the jury's all, the rest of the jurors are all dead set again, to vote guilty and everything. And then, of course, in typical Beavis and Butt-Head style, they inadvertently sort of figure out, oh, maybe this guy didn't do it, or maybe he did. Who knows? But the point is that the guy was cool, and that's what they thought. And then once they decided, like, oh, wait, he didn't really do all those things. Maybe he was innocent. Well, he's guilty then. And they end up with a hung jury and everything. It was all of that interaction, the whole, pissing them people off, all of that, being willfully stupid and obtuse was very funny. Like, I laughed quite a bit at this. And I'll also say that, the riffing for the most part in this, the first bit of riffing in this part was really funny. Like, so I laughed quite a bit. I liked it a lot. Only downside to it was that towards the end of this little segment, the first segment, it just sort of fizzles out. Like, it's a strong premise that didn't have a good ending. And so just the ending where they go home and the guy gets out and starts, doing manslaughter, which was another good thing where Beavis was just kept saying manslaughter and everything, and just being disruptive was just very funny. But they just sort of fizzled away, unfortunately. So I can't, it ended on a low note for me. And then it went on to the Freaky Friday bit, wherein Beavis and Butt-Head, their heads are bashed together for, pulling a prank on a big muscle dude. And because they're dumb, they think that, they see each other through a window. They think that they've switched bodies. And so they attempt to act like what they think each other's going to act like. To the point where, which is very funny, them switching clothes and everything, switching where they are at class. And you have Mr. Van Driesen, who sort of, plays along with, I guess, their whatever they got going on. But it really just descends into what mostly happens whenever Beavis and Butt-Head attempt to have some kind of empathy or walk in each other's shoes or whatever you want to call it. It basically just turns into them, shitting on each other and getting mad at each other for shit. They're like, oh, they're still thinking of themselves, but they are trying to act like the other person. So they're basically just trying to, troll each other or badmouth each other. And if that sounds interesting to you, it's not that funny, to be perfectly honest. It was fine. It wasn't something I was just like, oh, I really am having a great time with this. Not a whole lot of laughs. It just a joke that was way too thin, not enough meat on it, couldn't sustain much of a even down to the part where they started beating themselves up, thinking that they're hurting each other. I mean, it's somewhat funny, but like not really doesn't sustain a lot of laughs. So, and which was very disappointing considering how good the first segment really was. And then the riffing was similarly not all that great, not terribly funny. So I really was kind of disappointed in the fact that at the back half of this episode, I found myself not laughing a huge amount. And that's been sort of a problem I've had with this series so far, is that not coming up with a premise that's good enough, to sustain, half an episode of good laughs. Like it can be whatever the joke setup, good enough that you can get, multiple laughs and lots of scenarios out of that. And I just think the Freaky Friday thing just wasn't quite good enough, even down to the fact that like even the physical comedy wasn't, didn't really save it that much. So I'm just going to say this episode, half of it was really great. The other half was just kind of mediocre. So, I could skip the second half. But I'm surprised the old Beavis and Butt-Head has turned. I thought they were going to be garbage, for this series. But so far, they've actually, aside from that first time, they've actually sort of turned in some really good comedy. So, hey, I'm with it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this episode. What do you guys think about this episode? What do you think about what I had to say? Get down to the comment section. Let me know what you think. And, of course, you can always hit me up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And while you're doing that, get down there, hit that like button. It helps us on the algorithm so more people can see these videos. And hit the subscribe button. Join the channel. We would love to have you here. All right, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, thanks for joining me on this. Come back next week. We're going to review yet another Beavis and Butt-Head episode. Until then, I've been Malik Poupée, your resident Fabricant and comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.